their video cameras. Thank you. And can I have, is everyone ready to begin with this trial? Great. And who will be the plaintiffs in this case for Dakota? Andrew's team, Andrew's attorneys, will you introduce yourself? And then Andrew's witnesses, will you please? And please go a little bit slow so we can write down the names quickly.
Good afternoon. My name is Malia Bauer. I will be presenting the opening for the plaintiff, the direct of Carson Durst, and the cross-examination of Skylar Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Caitlin Conley, and I will be directing Dakota Weirs, as well as crossing Blake Duncourt.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Emily Duran. I will be directing Dr. Casey Rogers, as well as cross-examining Dr. Devin Williams and providing the closing statement.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Lorena Brady, and I am Dakota Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Mary Strasser, and I am Dr. Casey Rogers.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Jamie LeMay, and I am Carson Durst.
And if I could have Team Diana, the attorneys go first for Team Diana, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I am Ashley Fun. I will be direct examining Skylar Weirs, cross-examining Dakota Weirs, and doing the closing statements as well.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I am Preston Boyson, and I will be conducting the direct examination of Blake Doncourt and the cross-examination of Carson Durst.
Good afternoon. I'm Shannon Sachs. I will be doing the opening statement, I'll be doing the direct of Dr. Devin Williams and the cross-exam of Dr. Casey Rogers.
Is that all the attorneys?
Yes, Your Honor.
The witnesses for Team Diana, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Jada Friedman, and I will be playing Blake Doncourt.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Sophia Svisa, and I'll be playing Skylar Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Chloe Castaneda, and I will be playing Dr. Devin Williams.
Chloe C., I think we're having a hard time hearing you. Can you check your microphone?
My apologies. My name is Chloe Castaneda, and I will be playing Dr. Devin Williams.
Chloe, you're pretty quiet. Even we can hear you now, but you may either have to move your microphone volume up or speak a little bit louder. Okay. I just have to remind everyone that this will be potentially videoed. It's also being live streamed at this point in time by the Colorado Bar Association. Does everyone agree to participate that way, in that way? Great, thank you. Scoring panelists, you've heard who the attorneys and the witnesses are. Do you recognize any of these individuals or have any bias towards one side or the other?
I do not.
I do not, Your Honor.
Judge Howell, I'm assuming you're good.
I'm sorry, Ms. Wayman, what was it that you requested?
Now that you've seen all of the attorneys and the witnesses, do you have any past experience with them or bias towards one side or the other?
I know no one and no biases at all. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, we will now swear in the attorneys. If the attorneys, you will please raise your right hand. Attorneys, do you promise that the presentation you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? Thank you. Witnesses, if you could always raise your right hand. And at the end, if you could just nod or go like that if you don't agree. Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of mock trial competition? I see everyone nodding. Great. Scoring panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition? And you could just nod. Great. Thank you. As a preliminary matter, we usually are going to go forward by only, since we're in this virtual format, if you could only the two attorneys and the witness be on camera. If everyone else could have your camera off, and make sure you have your mute button to save bandwidth. Is there any preliminary matters?
Yes,
Yes,
Your
Your
Honor.
Honor.
You go first.
The defense requests that we assume that both counsels already have copies of all the exhibits and therefore screen sharing is not necessary.
Any
yes.
objection?
Objection.
All right, Ms. The Andrews attorney, what state your basis for the objection?
We want to be screen sharing. We will be screen sharing our exhibit.
Okay, that's fine. I'll allow either side to do what's easiest for them, given the technology that they have in this unique. So if you are able to screen share, you're welcome to do so, but you're not required to. We all have a packet of the exhibits, and I will take a look at them as we go forward. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Any other preliminary matter?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Sachs?
We motion for all team members are in a room of their own and no coaches are present in those rooms as per the rules that were stated before this competition.
Okay, I don't have any objection to having people in the same room, but just that there isn't any coaching going on by the adults. If there are adults in that same room, I will use the honor system and the faith of people that will be committed to this exercise, that they'll follow those rules. Any other preliminary matters?
No, Your Honor.
Anything for the defense attorneys?
We're the plaintiff attorneys.
Sorry, Ms. The plaintiffs?
The plaintiff would like to ask that when exhibits are projected, they be on screen, they be considered constructively out of sight of the jury.
That is fine.
And when exhibits are admitted into evidence, they are considered constructively published to the jury.
That is fine also.
We also ask that if a technological is not obvious, if a technological problem is not obvious to you, Your Honor, that we may have a team member step in to tell you.
That's fine also.
No further preliminaries for the plaintiff.
Anything else that I've forgotten to mention, or are we all ready to go forward? Seeing no one take off their mute or put on their video, we will proceed to the opening statement. Plaintiff's counsel, will you please start your opening statement?
Okay. May it please the court, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing and co-counsel. Carelessness, concealment, catastrophe. My name is Malia Bauer, and together with my co-counsels, Miss Emily Duran and Miss Caitlin Conley, I am proud to represent 20-year-old Miss Dakota Weirs, a victim of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer not caused by genetics. No, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is caused by exposure to a carcinogen in her environment, And we believe that the evidence will show that her work as a landscaper has exposed her to the products of Lush Fertilizer and the carcinogen that has stolen her youth, stolen her health, stolen her talents. You will learn that Miss Weirs was a concert pianist who had earned a scholarship to Juilliard. Stolen her promise, stolen her dreams, and may even steal her life. This is a catastrophe that was driven by the carelessness and concealment of Lush Fertilizer. Today, it is Miss Weir's burden to prove to you, by a preponderance of the evidence, more probably true than not, that Lush Fertilizer failed to provide warning to their users of the dangers of their product. It is our assertion that this was negligence and that negligence resulted in Miss Weir's damages. You're going to learn that Lush Fertilizer manufactures a fertilizer product containing Drufo. There is no question about that. Miss Weirs will testify today that she has worked as a landscaper since she was 14 years old, and she used Lush Fertilizer in her job. Manufacturers of products have duties. They have a duty to exercise reasonable care to prevent that product from creating an unreasonable risk of harm. If there is a risk of harm, a manufacturer has to provide warning. There was no warning of possible harm to Lush Fertilizer's users. On the subject of what was done and what should have been done by Lush Fertilizer, you will hear from 5 witnesses. We will also present Ms. Dakota Weirs. Dr. Casey Rogers, a university professor at Berkeley, will testify and explain a study she performed. This study found a link between Drufo and serious health conditions and diagnoses, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Carson Durst, formerly on the research and development team for Lush Fertilizer, working directly on evaluating the safety of Drufo, will testify about his personal experience with the concealment of information regarding the risks of Drufo. The defense will present Blake Doncourt, CEO and founder of Lush Fertilizer. Mr. Doncourt will discuss the company's effects for the improvement of the environment with their flagship product. But please ask yourself, at what cost? You're going to hear an accusation from the defense that Miss Weirs is partially to blame for her cancer. We believe that after hearing this argument, you will come to one conclusion, that Lush Fertilizer is careless. Dr. Devin Williams, an employee of Lush Fertilizer, will also testify for the defense. He is primarily here to criticize Dr. Rogers' work. Please keep in mind who writes his paychecks. Part of your duty as a jury is to consider the motive and bias of the witnesses brought before you. Lastly, the defense will bring you Miss Weir's twin, Skylar Weirs, who they hope to convince you is an expert worthy of weighing in on this serious subject. Please keep in mind this minor's lack of credentials and their motives and interest. Lush Fertilizer is very proud of their product. It was designed to solve an environmental problem, but at what cost? Unfortunately, there has been a great cost to Dakota Weirs. Physical, mental, emotional, pain, suffering, and more. All of those intangible things that make life worth living, ladies and gentlemen. While Lush Fertilizer may be able to create spreadsheets showing the cost of avoiding harm to their users, no such spreadsheet exists for the value of what we call non-economic damages. That is up to you. At the end of this trial, you will be asked to value Dakota Weir's loss. And when you do, we want you to keep in mind what this catastrophe has stolen from her. Thank you.
Thank you. And now for the defense.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, members of the jury, I am Shannon Sachs, and I am representing Lush Fertilizers in this case. And the case in question is an unfortunate case of a girl trying to explain the unexplainable through a fertilizer company. Before I begin, I would like to say for myself and my client that we acknowledge this is an extremely unfortunate case, and we truly sympathize with Dakota's condition. No matter the outcome of this case, Dakota is still, without a doubt, suffering from cancer. And for that, she has our most sincere condolences. We hope that she finds peace in the future. However, we do not want it to come at the expense of a company that is not to blame. Speaking of the company in question, Lush Fertilizer has been open with the fact that they donate 10% of their earnings towards environmental issues. In fact, the whole reason why they use Drupo is because of all the scientific evidence showing its environmental benefits. And considering this amount of care that Lush puts into their products for the well-being of the environment, I ask, why would one assume that they do not also put the same amount of care, if not more, in when it comes to the well-being of their customers? And furthermore, this situation was escalated by the show that the media put on. Everyone had to find out about Drupo's role in Lush fertilizer products in a news story that focused solely on what new information people uncovered, rather than the measures that Lush previously went through to keep their users safe. The media didn't mention the fact that Drupo is clearly listed as an ingredient on Lush fertilizer products. They didn't list all the safety precautions that Lush detailed for their users, and they didn't state that there are no viable and published works that conclude that there is a definite link between Drupo and cancer in humans. Instead, they incited fear and rage in Dakota and the rest of the public, so they have no logical choice but to point fingers at Lush Fertilizer. Now see, Lush Fertilizer is the manufacturer. They research extensively, they make the products, and then they sell them. After that, all safety precautions have to be understood by the buyer, which in this case is Haven Landscaping's. Lush recognizes fertilizers can have harmful chemicals, and exposure risks are not always obvious to the user. And so that's why it is so important that Haven Landscaping sufficiently educates their employees on the different types of chemicals that they are dealing with and enforces the use of protective gear, especially when such guidelines for that gear are clearly labeled on the package and employees are as young as 14 years old. It is no secret that one may be exposed to harmful chemicals when using fertilizer. That is true for any company. However, this means that one should take the necessary safety precautions, which Dakota did not. The hard reality of this case is that the cause of Dakota's cancer is ambiguous. There are hundreds of ways that someone may develop cancer, and as of now, no one can definitively say what caused it in Dakota. Nothing that you will hear today says that Lush Fertilizer directly caused her cancer. And now, to really understand Lush Fertilizer's role in this case, the defense will call upon 3 witnesses: Blake Donacourt, Skylar Weirs, and Dr. Devin Williams. Blake Donacourt, the Chief Executive Officer of Lush Fertilizer, will give you a look of the inner workings and logic and research behind including Drupo in their products. We will then call for Skylar Weirs, Dakota's twin, to provide a detailed description of Drupo in today's agritech, and how, in actuality, Drupo is a safe product for the environment. Lastly, we will call upon Dr. Devin Williams, who leads the Toxicology Research and Development Labs at Lush Fertilizer and is the chair of the company's ethics committee. Here we will learn about what Drupo does on a chemical level and how it cannot be proven to be the cause of Dakota's cancer. Now, Lush Fertilizer and myself are both sorry for Dakota's case. However, the cause of her illness remains ambiguous and misconstrued by the public. Lush Fertilizer has always made the well-being of their users a priority. And by the end of this case, you will all come to see and understand that the real negligence and misconduct does not rest with Lush Fertilizer. Your Honor and members of the jury, at the end of this case, you will see that in this truly unfortunate event, Lush Fertilizer is not at fault and the plaintiff will not be able to meet their burden. Thank you.
Thank you. And the plaintiff, you can make the plaintiff's attorney, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I call Dakota Weirs to the stand. Thank you, Ms. Weirs. Please state and spell your name for the jury.
Dakota Weirs, Weirs.
Thank you. First, I would like to start off with how old are you?
I am 20 years old.
And do you currently have an illness?
Yes, I do.
What is your diagnosis?
Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Would you like to expand on that to the jury?
Well, the illness has been very hard on me, not just physically, but emotionally. It has taken great toll on me.
And are there things you can no longer do due to your illness?
Yes, there's so many things, just even little things that I can no longer do in my life.
And were you enrolled in school?
Yes, I was enrolled.
And what was that school?
I was enrolled in Juilliard.
And what steps did you take to get that enrollment?
I feel like every step I took in my life was towards Juilliard. I've been playing since I could walk.
And have you been able to proceed with those plans of going to that school?
Sadly, I have not been able to proceed with those plans.
And how has that affected you emotionally?
Emotionally, it's scary. I had everything in my life planned out, and now my life is full with uncertainty, and it's terrifying.
And what was your connection to your musical instrument?
I mean, it was something I loved, but mostly it kept me close to my grandfather.
And would you like to expand on that for the jury?
My grandfather taught me all of this, and since he is no longer here, I feel like I'm losing him every second that I am not playing.
And you said earlier that there are things you can no longer do due to your illness. What are those things?
Well, I used to be a very active member in my community. I volunteered a lot, and so I can no longer do that, and I can no longer play the piano, and I can no longer just do little things like grabbing a glass of water.
And how does that make you feel to be stripped away from your dreams and not being able to do tasks?
It makes me feel scared, sad, and disappointed. I don't even know if I'll ever be able to play again. And it was this humongous part of my life. It was my dream. It was my future.
And do you have a current caretaker?
Yes, I do.
Who are your current caretakers?
My current caretakers are my parents.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Ms. Dunn, do you have a cross?
I do, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. You work as a landscaper, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And you worked for multiple years?
Yes, I have worked for a while now, yes.
And am I correct in assuming you helped out a lot with this landscaping company?
Yes, I worked a lot.
You helped out at soccer fields,
Correct.
resorts,
Correct.
neighborhood homes, perhaps,
Yes, that is
golf
something-
courses even.
Yes.
And you're too young to operate machinery, correct?
I mean, I learned at a young age.
But you primarily had the role of spreading seed and fertilizer, correct?
Yes, that was my job.
So after many years working at these many different locations, wouldn't you agree that you had quite a bit exposure to these seed and fertilizers?
Yes, I worked with many things.
Your Honor, I would like to introduce Exhibit 1 for the record. Opposing counsel has a copy of Exhibit 1 already. Ms. Weirs, could you please refer to what has been marked as Exhibit 1?
Yes, just one moment, please.
Take your time.
Okay, I am now looking at it.
Do you recognize this exhibit, Ms. Weirs?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It is the label on Lush Fertilizer's product.
And how do you know?
It says Lush Fertilizer on it.
And is this a fair and accurate representation of the Lush label that was on the products that you used when working at landscaping?
Let me take a good look on it to make sure. Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I would like to move Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Any objections from the defense?
Objection hearsay, Your Honor.
And what's the basis of your hearsay objection?
I believe that this is outside of the scope of the witness's knowledge.
Ms. Dunn, do you want to ask any further questions to address that?
Yes, could we refer, Ms. Weirs, could you refer to your witness statement for me, please?
Yes, let me get there.
I believe you state in lines, I believe you state in your witness statement that you reached out to your landscaping employer and they sent you this specific label, correct?
Yes, it was my.
So is it
old-
unreasonable to assume that this is the label in question?
May you please repeat your question?
There's no contest that this is the label in question that your employer sent you, correct?
This is the label.
All right,
Then
Ms.
therefore, I would like to be this label to be admitted into evidence.
and Ms. Dunn, what's your response to hearsay?
Well, I'm laying the foundation that this is the label in question from her work.
I'm going to find that this is a statement against interests and that there was a foundation laid that this witness knows the authenticity and of this item. And so I'm going to let it into evidence.
Thank you, Your
Exhibit
Honor.
1 is going to be admitted. And Ms. Dunn, I'm just going to remind you to make sure that you allow the witness to answer completely.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. Now, do you mind reading the user safety recommendations on the label, Ms. Weirs?
Yes, I will. User safety recommendations. As with any spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of respiratory or N95 mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning, maintaining personal equipment, PPE. Users should wash their hands before and after the use of this product.
Thank you, Ms. Weirs. Now, have you read this warning label before?
When I was sent it, yes, I did read this.
Did you read it while you were working at Havens Landscaping?
I did read the recommendations, yes.
So you read this label.
Yes, the recommendations.
Now, when working with this product, did you wear long clothing?
No, I did not. Me and many others.
Did you wear a mask?
No, I did not. Me and many others.
Did you exclusively work with this product outdoors like you were advised?
May you repeat your question, please?
Did you exclusively work with this product outdoors?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Defense, do you have any redirect? I'm sorry, prosecution, do you have any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, this witness can be excused. Plaintiff, can you call your second witness, please?
Yes, Your Honor. The plaintiff calls Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand. Good afternoon, Dr. Rogers. Can you please state and spell your name for the court?
Yes, Casey Rogers, R-O-G-E-R-S.
Thank you, doctor. Are you currently employed?
Yes, I am.
And where are you employed?
I currently work at the University of California at Berkeley in the Horticulture and Entomology Department as a professor.
And what is your education level?
I have a PhD in agriculture and entomology from the University of California at Berkeley.
And what other education have you received?
I have my Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture and Chemistry from Colorado State University.
And what work experience do you have?
I worked as a research analyst for a large multinational company for a time.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 6 may be presented on the screen for my witness.
Sure.
Dr. Rogers, what is this?
Well, this is my curriculum vitae.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of your curriculum vitae?
Yes, it is.
Did you prepare this CV yourself?
I did.
Do you update this CV regularly?
Yes, I do.
Is this CV kept as part of your regular course of business?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 6 be moved into evidence.
Defense, any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 6 is entered into evidence.
Thank you. Dr. Rogers, have you created a list of published works?
Yes, I have.
And in this list, what have you written about?
Well, I've written about the effects of numerous harmful chemicals, specifically the harmful effects of Drufo.
And Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 7 be presented to my witness on the screen.
Okay. Yes, that's fine.
Oh, thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, what is this?
This looks to be a list of all of my published works.
And on this list, are there articles that you have written about Drufo?
Yes, there are.
And do you update this list regularly?
Yes, I do.
Do you keep this list as part of your regular course of business?
I do.
Your Honor, I ask to move Exhibit 7 into evidence.
Defense, any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Exhibit 7 is moved into evidence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, may I please have Exhibit 7 removed from the screen?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Rogers, how long have you been studying negative effects of chemicals on the body?
Oh, for many years. Too many to count, truthfully.
Your Honor, at this time, I ask the court to recognize Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert in agriculture, negative effects of chemicals on the body, and the herbicide Drufo specifically, to provide opinions about this case under Rule 702.
Defense, do you have any objection or voir dire?
No objections, Your Honor.
This witness will then be an expert on Drufo and agriculture and the effects on the body.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, are you concerned about agricultural products on the market?
Yes, most definitely. In fact, there are numerous products that are concerning to me.
And which products are you concerned about?
Well, Drufo specifically, I've been very concerned about that ever since it was put on the market originally.
Why are you so concerned about Drufo?
I think that there was not sufficient testing done on Drufo and that it is indeed harmful to the users.
And did you do anything about this concern?
Yes, of course. I decided to take matters into my own hands and conduct what I believe to be the proper study.
And what was your goal for this said study?
My goal was to determine if Drufo, in fact, did cause an increase in illnesses, such as cancers, including non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And what was your prior knowledge to this study?
Well, I already knew that Drufo was known to be carcinogenic in rats, meaning that it caused them cancer.
And what did you do first in this study?
Well, I decided to organize 3 groups of people. The first being people who used Drufo like never. They've never interacted with Drufo. The second group of people was people who used Drufo on a semi-regular basis. And then the third group of people were people who were exposed to Drufo on a regular, almost daily basis.
And what did you monitor these people for?
I monitored the three groups over a course of many years to see if there were any developments of diseases like cancers.
And did this study produce any results?
Yes, it did.
And what are these results?
Well, the study found that those who were exposed to Drufo occasionally were 5 times more likely to develop cancers. And those who were exposed to Drufo on a regular basis were 10 times more likely to develop these cancers as compared to the first control group.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Was there anything else that you were able to review for this case?
Yes, I was.
What were you able to review?
I was able to review Dakota Weir's medical records.
And in reviewing these medical records, was it part of forming your expert opinions in this case?
Yes, it was.
By looking at these medical records, what expert opinions were you able to draw?
I believe that there is a very high probability that Dakota Weir's non-Hodgkin lymphoma was caused by her exposure to the chemical Drufo.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Defense, do you have a cross, Ms. Sachs?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon. Let's start with the study you conducted. So you said you did a study on the effects of Drufo in those who worked on farms and were exposed to it every day and compared those to those who have never come in contact with Drufo at all, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
But you only looked at fertilizers with Drufo and not any other type of fertilizers without it in the study, correct?
Yeah, that would have completely ruined the results. I was just examining Drufo.
So you've neglected to include this very important group in your study to compare to, did you?
I wouldn't say neglected. I'd say I made a very conscious choice not to because it would have compromised my results.
And this study, it was never published, was it?
I don't believe I specifically published the study, but I have published writings on my research.
And this study has never been replicated, has it?
No.
But you are aware that the National Institute of Health, being the federal focal point for health research, recommends that a scientific study be replicated multiple times to be considered as legitimate, right?
Yeah.
Are you also aware that the CDC, or Center of Disease Control and Prevention, which is the National Public Health Agency for the United States, has information quality guidelines effective as of 2002 that encourage that studies be replicated, right?
Yes.
All right, and so all the information that you are telling us today about the effects of Drufo on humans only come from the one study you conducted, correct?
Correct.
You also have a degree in agriculture and entomology, right?
Yes, I do.
But if I'm not mistaken, that has to do with cultivating soil and studying insects and not cancer, doesn't it?
Not directly. It is not related.
And in your research, you found that people were exposed to Drufo by either breathing it in or physically coming into contact with it, correct?
Yes.
And you recommended long clothing when using the product, yeah?
Yes, I did.
You also recommended a medical grade mask when using the product, yeah?
Yes, indeed, I did.
So if one did wear long clothing and a medical grade mask, would it lower one's risk of exposure?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
This witness is then excused. Can we have now the third and final witness for the plaintiffs?
The plaintiff would like to call Carson Durst to the stand.
You may go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Durst. Please state and spell your name for the court.
Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
What is your association with Lush Fertilizer?
So I used to work with Lush Fertilizer in the early 2000s.
And what was your job at Lush Fertilizer?
So I was a product development engineer within the research and development department.
What did you do as a product development engineer?
My job was essentially, so at the time we were developing Drufo, and my job was to find the potential dangers of chemicals within Drufo and send that up the corporate ladder to Blake Doncourt.
What is Drufo?
So Drufo is...
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you state the name of your objection, defense?
The witness is not an expert in Drufo.
Ms. Dern, do you have Ms. Bowen, do you have a response?
Your Honor, Mr. Durst worked on the development of Drufo, so he should be able to explain what Drufo is.
I'm going to overrule the objection. You may continue.
Okay.
Mr. Durst, what is Drufo?
Okay, so Drufo essentially is the bonding agent that keeps all of Lush fertilizer together. So keeps Lush fertilizer like this. And if Drufo wasn't there, all the ingredients and chemicals would just like be floating out everywhere else and it wouldn't work as a fertilizer.
What was your role in the development of Drufo?
Well, as I said earlier, to find the dangers, but more specifically, I had to find studies from around the world to essentially see if the chemicals within Drufo had been studied elsewhere and then apply that to what I was doing.
Had you researched any particular chemicals in Drufo?
Yeah, so there's nitrogen phosphorus carbonate, or C3NO9P, and that was my main assignment.
What research had been done to that point?
There had been an in-house study or two by Lush at that point.
So had there been any studies done?
Well, I had to go out and find them, but there had been a few in-house studies, yes.
What had you been asked to do?
I had to go into the incredibly interesting, actually, world of fertilizer manufacturing and development. And I had to go read literature of, like the literature of the findings of studies and stuff like that that could relate to nitrogen phosphorus carbonate.
What did you do to research nitrogen phosphorus carbonate?
Yeah, so just diving into the literature world of fertilizer manufacturing.
In your literature research, did you find any study that concluded that nitrogen carbonate phosphate may be harmful or injurious?
I found one from England that concluded that it was carcinogenic in rats potentially.
Did you keep notes during your research?
I did.
And did you note that study in your notes at the time you found it?
I did, yes.
And what date was that?
It was my dad's birthday, actually. It's June 10th of 2003.
Did you share your notes with Lush Fertilizer representatives?
Yeah, that I shared my notes with Gary Langley, who was my boss.
And after you discovered the study of rats and cancer, did Lush Fertilizer follow up on Drufo being carcinogenic?
In a way, yes, they did.
Were you given any direction on how the study should be done?
Oh, I apologize. I forgot to mention the study. Yeah, so the way that they followed up was they sent us an email about how the study, about an in-house study and how that should be done. And that was their response to it.
Your Honor, may Exhibit 4 be displayed on screen?
Yes, it may.
Mr. Durst, can you identify Exhibit 4?
Let me put my glasses on real quick. I apologize. Yes, it looks like that email that I just spoke of about the directions for that in-house study.
What's the subject of this email?
It reads, verifying recent in-house study outcomes.
Your name is at the top. Why is that?
So I printed this study out for reference while I was conducting the study. And that happens whenever you print something out from your company email account, like your name just, it appears on the top. I'm sure it happens to a lot of people.
Is this a true and accurate copy of the, of the email that was sent by Gary Langley on September 18th, 2003?
Yes, it looks like it.
After you printed it out, what did you do with it?
So 1, I used it for the study, and 2, I retained it for my own records.
Has it remained in your records since you printed it?
It's been almost 20 years, but yes, it has remained in my records.
Why did you print it out?
So I like to have paper copies of things while I'm conducting studies so that I don't potentially slip up or do something wrong, so that I can follow the directions as close as I can.
Mr. Durst, are you the custodian of your own records?
I am, yes.
Your Honor, I would like to move Exhibit 4 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 4 is so moved.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Durst, are you aware of what happened after that email was sent?
Yes, I am.
What happened after?
So the study was conducted, of course. And then there was a meeting organized by Gary Langley and one of her more upper managers, Alex Monroe, to discuss the findings of that study.
What happened after that meeting?
Well, Gary and Alex wanted to keep the information in that meeting from getting anywhere else, so that they can figure out like how to deal with the things that were found.
Was there concern raised about Drufo containing a carcinogen?
Yes, by one scientist. She said specifically about non-Hodgkin lymphoma happening as an effect of Drufo.
And was that scientist in that meeting?
Yes, she was.
Objection.
State the nature of your objection.
Hearsay. I meant to object earlier. I just didn't want to interrupt the witness.
Okay. Ms. Bowen, do you have a response?
Can the question, which question is being objected to again? Sorry.
When you asked the witness to state something someone else has said.
Ms. Bowen, why don't you rephrase the question you originally asked?
Was that scientist in that meeting?
That scientist was in that meeting.
Was there?
Your Honor, I have a question. I wasn't objecting to your scientist question. I was objecting to the question before that when he is stating what someone else has said in the meeting.
Well, since that question has already been asked and answered, I think we're going to move
yes.
on. All right. Continue.
So, Mr. Durst, was there concern raised about Drufo containing a carcinogen?
Yes, there was.
And that concern included non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Specifically that type of cancer, yes.
Did it appear that Alex Monroe and Gary Langley had heard that information?
Yes. It appeared to me that they were both listening intently, like they were hanging on the edge of every word.
And what was the reaction of low lush fertilizer management to that information?
Well, they wanted
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay, or not hearsay.
Correct. I'm
personal knowledge.
I'm going to sustain your objection. It does call for hearsay.
Okay.
Ms. Bowen, you want to continue?
Mr. Durst, was there a written report generated about the result of the work team shared that meeting?
Yes, that's a general thing that happens in large companies like Lush.
Did you read it?
I did.
Did the report make any suggestions?
Okay, so because it's a large written report, it makes many, many suggestions. The one that stood out to me the most was the suggestion to bake Drufo in order to completely remove the risk of Drufo being a carcinogen.
Did the final report mention non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
You know, I'm actually incredibly surprised about this. No, it did not mention that.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Mr. Boyson, do you have a cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Durst.
Good
You
afternoon.
currently work at Terrace Greenery, is that correct?
I do.
And you are the lead researcher and project manager.
Sounds right.
And before that, you worked at Lush Fertilizer as an intern, correct?
Well, as an intern and then a product development engineer, excuse me.
Okay, but you did work at Lush Fertilizer.
I used to, yes. It's many years ago.
And then while you worked at Lush Fertilizer, you signed a non-compete agreement, correct?
I signed a stack of papers this thick. I probably did. I just slipped my mind.
Can you please refer to Exhibit 5? Your Honor, I have provided opposing counsel with what has been marked Exhibit 5. Mr. Dirks, do you recognize this?
Let me go over it real quick. Gotta conditional employment, entire agreement, applicable law, conflict resolution. Yeah, looks like that. It looks like a non-compete agreement.
How do you know?
Because at the top it says non-compete agreement.
Did you sign it?
On the next page, I did.
Okay, is this the fair and accurate copy of the non-compete agreement you signed with Lush Fertilizer then?
Again, let me read it. I just skimmed it the first time. It looks like it.
Okay, Your Honor, I would like to introduce Exhibit 5 into evidence.
Exhibit 5 is entered into evidence.
The agreement says you cannot work for one of Lush's competitors, correct?
In which paragraph?
In the second bullet point, which is non-disclosure covenant,
Okay.
does it say that you cannot work for one of Lush's competitors?
In a very long form, seems like it.
Okay, and then are you currently working for one of Lush's competitors right now at Terrace Greenery?
I am. Look, I needed money for food security and a residence.
Okay, and then you violated the contract of this agreement then, didn't you?
Seems I did.
Okay, and you started working for Lush in 2003, correct?
Let's see. Around that time.
And then you brought up your discrepancy regarding Drufo in 2003, correct?
I did.
And then you waited until 2006, which is 3 more years later, until you left Lush Fertilizer, correct?
That is correct. That's what happened.
And this agreement is a bond between your words and your actions, correct?
My actions, sometimes I need to look out for myself.
Lush Fertilizer had trust in you when they hired you, correct?
Well, I'm sure they did.
And then,
everybody.
however, you broke this trust when you violated the agreement and went to work for Terrace Greenery in 2006, correct?
Well, I don't necessarily want to speculate about their trust and how much trust they had in me, but
A yes or no would suffice.
can you repeat the question? I apologize.
You broke the trust that Lush Fertilizer had with you when you went to work for its competitor, Terrace Greenery.
Objection, speculation.
Mr. Boyson?
I'm just clarifying or setting up a character that shows that they have lied in the past and broke trust. So how can they be trusted?
I'm going to sustain the objection as speculative and also argumentative.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You may proceed with your next question, Mr. Boyson.
Mr. Durst, did you know Blake Doncourt?
I used to.
And then Blake Doncourt is the CEO and founder of Lush Fertilizer, correct?
That is his current position, I believe. It's been a while. Again.
And then Miss Doncourt had a son, Charles Doncourt, correct?
Seems right.
And then you and Charles were close friends, correct?
We used to be close friends back when we were like little children.
You grew up together, correct?
That sounds right too.
Played on the same soccer team.
Sounds like an accurate telling of events, I think.
You visited his father's lake house and then finally went to college together, right?
Well, we did go to college together.
And then while at college, you told Charles that you were having troubles finding an internship, correct?
Yeah, that happens to a lot of people. It's a little difficult finding internships and jobs out of college because you don't have job experience.
In fact, let's talk more about your education. You graduated from Arizona State University and you were not at the top of your class, correct?
Well, I was a Sun Devil, but no, I was not at the top of my class.
And then it was your friend Charles, your lifelong friend, who connected you to his father at Lush, correct?
That's what I think happened.
And then you worked as an intern on the research and product development team when you started at Lush, correct?
Yes, when you start at a company, usually it's as an intern or like a really low level employee. So I couldn't have gotten up to where I was.
But you started as an intern, correct?
That is what usually happens.
And you started as an intern, correct?
I did start as an intern.
Okay. And prior to working at Lush, what experience did you have researching chemicals apart from your academic studies?
Well, it was my academic studies.
You didn't have anything outside of your academic studies while in college researching chemicals, correct?
Well, outside of college. I apologize. That's what I did during my college.
Okay. And as an intern at Lush, you were tasked with researching Drufo in Lush fertilizer, correct?
They were developing it.
And then during your research, you read a study from England concerning Drufo?
That sounds
correct.
right. Mm-hmm.
And then the study looked into the effect of Drufo in rats, correct?
Yes.
Not humans?
No, not humans, because there hadn't been enough studies done.
Your Honor, please direct the witness to answer with yes or no.
I think that there was a yes or no question there, although he does get a chance to explain. So please let him finish his explanations to a degree. But if the witness could keep it tight to the answering the question.
Thank you.
Can you repeat the question? I apologize.
It was just the study did not look into the effect of Drufo in humans, correct?
Well, not about Drufo. It was about nitrogen phosphorus carbonate specifically. But no, it hadn't, because there hadn't been enough studies done in rats to warrant the need for human trials.
In your research, you never found a study that stated how Drufo is carcinogenic in humans, correct?
Again, this was about nitrogen phosphorus carbonate in humans and not Drufo.
I'm not talking about this specific study, but overall, you did not find a study that showed Drufo was carcinogenic in humans, correct?
No.
Okay. And then you didn't read any other studies, is that correct?
I didn't. I was trying to find
And then the UK study you did read does not link exposure of Drufo to non-Hodgkin lymphoma in humans, correct?
In humans, no, but in rats.
Okay. And then you claim you informed Miss Doncourt regarding your concerns for Drufo in 2003, did you not?
I apologize, you froze. Did you say Miss or Mrs. Doncourt?
Miss Doncourt.
No, I didn't.
Okay, and then, yeah, you continued to work there until 2006.
Yeah, it sounds like what happened.
And then you didn't identify any more studies during that time, correct?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Durst. That will be all, Your Honor.
Any redirect by by Team Andrews?
No redirect, Your Honor.
Right, this witness can step down. And can you call your, is there any further witnesses for the plaintiff?
No further witnesses, Your Honor. The plaintiff rests.
Okay. Defense, you may call your first witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The defense now calls Skylar Weirs to the stand. Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. Please state your name, spelling your last name for the court record.
Skylar Weirs, Weirs.
Now, Ms. Weirs, how do you know the plaintiff in today's trial?
She's my fraternal twin.
And how do you feel about your twin's diagnosis?
I mean, it's heartbreaking to see my own twin sister being stricken by this disease.
I want to talk about you for a moment, if that's okay. What do you do, Ms. Weirs?
I'm a journalist.
And what is your primary focus within this field?
Agrotech.
And how long have you been working in this agrotech field?
For hundreds of hours. I mean, I've done hundreds of hours research, but it's been quite a while. I've been researching for quite a while.
And can you tell me what got you into this area of work?
I have an interest for it, and I talked to my editor about that, and my editor thought my interest was quite good, so he gave me the go-ahead for it.
And this is for what magazine?
Rationalist magazine.
Could you tell me more about Rationalist magazine?
It is a science.
Relevance?
I think I see the relevance. You may proceed. Objection overruled.
It is a scientific magazine.
And can you tell me a little bit more about your research for this scientific magazine?
Well, I've been researching agrotech quite recent. I've been researching agrotech for past 100 hours or so. So most definitely have found that it's important in Dufro, the company from Lush.
And can you please elaborate on how you conducted this research?
Well, first of all, I did research about some of these articles, and then I went to those scientists specifically and talked to them more in person about it.
Now, do you believe your experience in the field of agrotech is valuable to the court today?
Yes, I do.
Your Honor, this time I tender this witness as an expert in the field of agrotech.
Plaintiffs,
Voir dire.
you may voir dire this witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, you have no degree in journalism,
No, I do not.
no degree in agricultural sciences,
No,
no degree in chemistry,
no, but why would I need to when I can go get a general knowledge outside in the real world?
no degree in toxicology. In fact, no scientific degree at all.
Objection, compound question.
I agree. Can you split those two and also be mindful about being argumentative?
Yes, sorry, Your Honor. You have no degree in toxicology.
I do not.
You have no scientific degree.
I do not, but I've already stated that I have done hours of research for this.
You have no college degree.
Objection asked and answered.
Okay.
I'll allow it.
Ms. Weirs, you didn't attend college.
I did not.
You have no formal education in these fields.
Objection, is there a question?
I think there is a question, but I think a lot of this has already been covered. If you would move on to another question or state your position, Ms. Bowen.
Okay. Ms. Weirs, your research is of what others had said and done.
Can you repeat that?
Your research is of what others have said and done.
Objection again, there's no question.
I believe there was. You can answer that, Ms. Weirs.
Can you repeat that?
What your research was of what others had said and done, not your own research. It's not of what something, it's not, sorry, it's not research that you conducted yourself. It was of what others did.
Yes, but I've also done research from many people, creating my own research from their research.
You are not qualified to conduct medical research yourself.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You are not qualified to conduct medical research yourself.
Are you saying I didn't go get the research someplace?
I'm saying that you haven't done any research yourself.
I have done research.
But you have not conducted medical research yourself.
Ms. Bowen, I think you have laid a fairly solid foundation through your voir dire. You want to make your argument regarding whether this should be an expert witness or not?
Yes, Your Honor, we object to Skylar Weirs being recognized as an expert in this matter. We believe that there has not been any skill, experience, training, or education shown for Ms. Weirs to be admitted as an expert.
I think sorry, and Ms. Dunn, do you have a response?
Yes, Your Honor. According to Rule of Evidence 702, the witness is not required to hold any specific degree in order to qualify as an expert, and she only needs to qualify in one of the 5 categories that they mentioned: knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education, and this witness qualifies in the category of knowledge.
Ms. Bowen, you've made some very good points in your voir dire, but I think that those go to the weight of the evidence that can be presented through Ms. Weirs. And also given the pretrial ruling, I will allow Ms. Weirs to testify in a very limited capacity as an expert in agricultural technology. You may continue, Ms. Dunn.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Weirs, can you tell me what you found in your research about Drufo?
I did. I found some quite interesting stuff about how Drufo bonds to the grass, allowing the nitrogen to stay there for a lot longer, also allowing you to use the fertilizers a lot less.
And can you tell me a little bit more about these nitrogens that Drufo bonds with?
Now, the nitrogens are quite important to our system because they can cause quite diseases if they get out into our water system and to the people who are out there. So we make sure that the Drufo allows those nitrogens to bond to the grass so they don't ever get to our water system and harm people.
Now, in your expert opinion, do you believe that Lush fertilizer is a better and safer product than other chemicals?
I do.
And would you trust Lush fertilizer over other products?
I do.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Plaintiffs, do you have a cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Ms. Weirs. You are testifying today regarding reading that you have done.
Yes, I've also talked to these people, so it's not just reading.
But that's what you've done. It's reading.
It's not just reading. I've gone to these people.
You started your reading with publications by agri-tech companies such as Lush Fertilizer.
Can you repeat the question?
You started your reading with publications by agri-tech companies such as Lush Fertilizer.
Yes, I did, but I also went to the scientists too.
The direction of your reading was dictated by the content of industry articles.
As I've stated, this isn't reading. I've gone to the scientists and I've not just read this stuff. I've talked to them in person.
Ms. Weirs, you are a freelance writer.
I'm not freelance. I work for a company.
You are a freelance writer.
Is that a question?
You only get paid if your articles are purchased.
No, I work for a company called Rationalist Magazine.
Yes, the Rationalist Magazine is run by the Rationalist Society, which is devoted to promoting scientific skepticism.
That is all true.
And you only get paid if the article is purchased.
Objection, relevancy.
Plaintiff's attorney, can you tell me, respond to the relevancy objection?
Your Honor, this goes to the motive of this witness.
I agree. It does go at an issue of credibility. You may continue. And Ms. Bowen, if you would just put at the end of your sentence, is that correct, or yes or no? And I think then Ms. Weirs, you can assume that that is a question.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, you are a server at Applebee's, correct?
That is correct. Part-time, so it takes very little.
And you're being paid to testify on behalf of Lush Fertilizer today.
I am not.
As we mentioned earlier, your reading about Drufo was for a series of articles that you sold to the Rationalist Magazine.
I did not sell my articles. I gave them to my editor to put onto the Rationalist Magazine. I'm not a freelance journalist.
Your reading was not directed by anyone else, like a professor or an editor.
I made sure all the scientists got looked over the work that I put in there to make sure it all was true.
You chose what to review.
I did not choose.
You interpreted what you read.
I did not interpret.
You had to interpret what you read.
I did not have to. I did not read. I went to these scientists personally.
But you still interpreted what they told you by yourself.
No, as I told you before, I made sure that this was what they said and checked with them.
Your interpretations of what they said and what your reading was done is what you're testifying about today.
I told you I did not interpret.
Speaking of free to testify on behalf of Lush Fertilizer, you're in debt from an unexpected March Madness a couple years ago.
Yes, that was an unfortunate day. I did lose a couple hundred.
You admit that virtually every commercial pesticide has several well-known carcinogens.
Can you repeat the question?
You admit that virtually every commercial pesticide has several well-known carcinogens, correct?
I'm not sure what you're trying to ask.
Every commercial pesticide has several well-known carcinogens, correct? You have found that in your reading.
Yet again, I did not do anything. I went to these scientists, and yes, they're carcinogens, but they're not harmful to the human body.
By definition, you agree that pesticides and herbicides are poison.
Some of them are, but not Drufo.
Drufo is the bonding agent in Lush Fertilizer, a pesticide.
Yes, but it's not harmful to the body. As I told you, I said some poisonous are.
You admit that all modern grass seed is treated with herbicide.
Can you repeat that?
You admit that all modern grass seed is treated with herbicide, correct?
Is that a question?
Yeah, she did ask a question at the end, Ms. Weir, so I'm going to instruct that you answer the question. But the attorney for plaintiffs, Ms. Bowen, could you just also, and maybe instead of admit and say acknowledge, and we can be able to move this along?
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weirs, you have said that all modern grass seed is treated with herbicide, correct?
Yes, and herbicide is some of those poisons that could harm animals, not humans.
Nitrogen is known to contribute to various cancers.
Objection. The witness can't testify on this. She's here today as an expert on Drufo.
In response?
I believe that the witness was admitted as an expert in agritech.
You're correct. She was admitted with agritech, and that is a very tough one to determine what the bounds are. But I think as far as with specifics on Drufo, I don't think she is an expert. And so I'm going to ask you to move to your next questions or end your cross.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Weir's Lush Fertilizer includes the active ingredient of nitrogen, correct?
Yes, like all fertilizers do.
And nitrogen has been found to be carcinogenic.
No, it has not.
I believe that nitrogen is known to contribute to various cancers, and you have stated that you have found that in your reading.
Did you finish your question?
I did. Can
you repeat that for me? Sorry.
Nitrogen has been known to contribute to various cancers, and you have stated that you have found that in your reading.
I said that nitrogen has caused blue baby syndrome and has caused stuff in water, but I never said that it caused cancer.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Ms. Dunn, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Now, Ms. Weirs, I just want to clarify, in your expert opinion and from the research that you conducted, both reading and speaking to other scientists, you determined that Lush Fertilizer was a safe product, correct?
Yes, I did.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right, this witness can be excused. Defense, we will call your second witness.
Your Honor, I'd like to call Blake Doncourt to the stand.
All right, you may begin.
Ms. Doncourt, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Hi, my name is Blake Doncourt. That's Doncourt.
Thank you, Ms. Doncourt, for being here today. Ms. Doncourt, what is your role at Lush Fertilizer?
I'm the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, and I have been since 2003.
What are your duties in that position?
I oversee pretty much everything that happens in the company, like hiring.
And how have you grown Lush into the business that it is today?
Well, I created this company from my own hands, and I work days and nights to do this.
What values does Lush Fertilizer try to uphold as one of the world's largest fertilizer companies?
We are very environmentally friendly. We donate 10% of our profits to charities that help reduce our global nitrogen footprint. And we also have our own education programs that regard the environment. And we also have our own charities that help clean the world's most polluted oceans.
Let's talk a little bit more about a specific compound in your company's fertilizer, Drufo. What can you tell me about Drufo?
Drufo is a bonding agent in our fertilizer that keeps it preserved and intact, and also produces your luscious green grass.
Does Lush Fertilizer test Drufo?
We do.
How many times?
We've tested it twice.
Has any outside companies or sources tested Drufo?
The Environmental Protection Agency did, and there were no concerns raised.
Are there any regulations stating how many times you should test a product before releasing it onto the market?
There aren't.
Okay. Do you believe Drufo to be carcinogenic in humans?
Absolutely not.
What about baking? Does Lush Fertilizer bake Drufo?
We don't.
Why not?
It's simply overkill if we do.
Let's move on to Casey Rogers. What do you know about Miss Rogers?
She's a hired gun. She claims to have some sort of study on how Drufo is carcinogenic, but that study was neither published nor peer-reviewed.
Objection, speculation, Your Honor.
Mr. Boyson?
The Miss Doncourt is just stating her opinion, not the truth of the matter, but just her view.
And Mr. Boyson, can you state your question again for me?
Yes, it was what do you know about Miss Rogers?
I'm going to allow it as if there is personal knowledge, and will overrule the objection. You may continue.
Okay. Would you like me to re-ask the question, Your Honor?
Yes, that's fine if you want.
Okay. What do you know about Miss Rogers, Miss Doncourt?
I understand that she's getting paid to do this, and she also did some sort of study on how Drufo is carcinogenic, but that study was neither published nor peer-reviewed, as I stated before.
Do you know someone named Carson Durst?
I do.
What is his relationship to you?
Well, he was like a son to me, and he was best friends with my son, Charles. We used to go up to our lake house in the summers, and I would also drive him to his soccer games.
What was his specific role in the company?
He was an intern for our research and development team.
Did Mr. Durst and Lush Fertilizer have a non-compete clause regarding his employment at Lush Fertilizer?
Yes, we did.
Can you explain what the non-compete agreement entailed and if it was violated?
Well, he completely violated it, and that means Lush is entitled to seek injunctive relief.
And then why did Lush Fertilizer terminate his contract of employment?
He ended up being unqualified.
How about Dakota Weirs? What do you know about Dakota Weirs?
To my knowledge, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which I understand is not genetic.
How does this make you feel?
I feel terrible for her, and it's
Objection.
heartbreaking.
I'm going to concur. I'm going to sustain that objection. Please move on.
Okay. Miss Doncourt, is there anything else that you'd like to state to the court?
I would just like to say, as an avowed environmentalist and humanist, I would never put a product on the line that could be potentially dangerous to the environment or to other humans.
Thank you, Miss Doncourt. That will be all, Your Honor.
Plaintiffs, do you have a cross?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Mrs. Duncorp, you are aware that baking your fertilizer would remove any carcinogens in your product, correct?
If it was, yes.
Yet you do not bake your fertilizer.
We don't.
You even sat yourself down and created an amortization table to determine the costs your company would have to pay in order to remove these carcinogens to its users.
I did.
Your Honor, I ask that Exhibit 8 be displayed for the witness.
That's fine.
Thank you. Mrs. Duncorp, this is an amortization table created by you, correct?
That's right.
And it was created to determine the costs you would have to pay at Lush Fertilizer to remove the baking risk or to remove the carcinogens to its users.
That's also correct.
And you created this amortization table to help you guide your business decisions as the CEO of Lush Fertilizer. Is this correct?
I wouldn't say guide the business decisions. Money was not my motive.
And this is a true and accurate copy of your amortization table, yes?
It is.
Thank you, Your Honor. I ask that Exhibit 8 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection, Mr. Boyson?
No objection, Your Honor.
It's so admitted.
Thank you. I ask that it no longer be shared on the screen. So, Mrs. Duncourt, due to your figures, you decided not to bake your fertilizer, yes?
It wasn't because of the money. It was because I didn't need to.
Well, according to your figures, you determined that you can increase your profits by 6% the first year and an additional 2% thereafter if Lush did not bake their fertilizer. Is this correct?
That's right.
So, due to your figures, you decided not to bake your fertilizer.
It's not due to the money.
And Mrs. Duncourt, you did not put a warning label on your fertilizer. Is this correct?
We put precautions to take, so yes, technically we did.
And you made the determination that the studies regarding Drufo and cancer are not conclusive.
They aren't.
And that is something you have concluded, correct?
That they're not conclusive?
Yes.
Sure.
And this is your determination.
Sure.
Objection, is that a question?
I believe it's probably an asked and answered, and I will sustain that objection. Please move on, attorney.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Boyson, do you have any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms. Doncourt, what is your job again at Lush Fertilizer?
I'm the CEO.
Does that mean you make all the financial decisions?
I don't. It's my CFO's job.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Doncourt. That will be all, Your Honor.
This witness may be excused. Can you please bring up your third and final witness for the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. We now call Dr. Devin Williams to the stand.
Okay, go ahead.
Dr. Williams, can you state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes, my name is Dr. Devin Williams. That's Williams.
I'm gonna pause you, Doctor. If you could either try to remove your earphones or try another way. It's very, very difficult to hear you.
My apologies, Judge. Is that better?
Yes, if you could just speak a little louder than normal.
Yes, Judge. My name is Dr. Devin Williams. That's Williams.
All right. So, Dr. Williams, could you tell me about your educational background?
Yes, I currently lead the research and development labs for Lush Fertilizer, and I have been doing that for 7 years.
All right. Continue. My bad.
My throat got dry. I also completed my undergrad through PhD at Colorado State University in Fort Collins. I also did a specialized post-PhD program in pharmacotoxicology at the University of Utah.
Could you also tell us about your professional background?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
So could you also tell us about your professional background?
Yes, as I said before, I currently lead the research and development labs for Lush Fertilizer, but I also teach at the University of New Mexico School of Pharmacy, and I teach 4 courses there. It is forensic toxicology, courses 1 and 2, principles of forensic toxicology, and toxicology of environmental and occupational chemicals.
All right, could you please refer to what has been marked as Exhibit 9? Opposing counsel also has a copy. And when you get there, Dr. Williams, could you tell me, do you recognize this exhibit?
I do.
And what is it?
My resume.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of what you've said today regarding your educational and previous work experience?
It is.
I would now like to move Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Plaintiffs, any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection, hearsay.
Ms. Sachs, do you have a response?
Exhibit 9 is it's a resume of Dr. Devin Williams. It has already been proven to be accurate, and it has already been accepted by the court before. It should not be hearsay.
I'm going to overrule the objection, as this is the doctor's own vitae.
Your Honor, may I have a chance to respond?
You may.
Your Honor, I do not believe that the proper foundations have been laid for this exhibit to be admitted as a business record under hearsay.
I acknowledge your, however, I don't believe a curriculum vitae created by the doctor herself would necessarily need a business record exception. So I'm going to overrule your objection on hearsay and allow Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Thank you. So moving forward, Dr. Williams, do you have any publications or research?
I do. I have 6 of them.
And have these works been peer reviewed?
Yes.
You also believe that your testimony will be helpful in assisting the judge or the jury understand the facts of this case today?
I do.
Your Honor, at this time, I tender this witness as an expert in the fields of toxicology and pharmacotoxicology.
Plaintiffs' counsel, do you have an objection or voir dire?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm going to allow this witness to be admitted as an expert and be able to express opinions on toxicology and pharmacotoxicology. You may continue.
Thank you. So Dr. Williams, what did you study or what did you do at Lush Fertilizer?
Well, I started roughly a decade ago, and I started as the technician for the DRUFO development teams. And then I got promoted to lead the labs, which I was overseeing environmental balances of fertilizers, but more specifically, the environmental balances of DRUFO.
And can you tell us about the company priorities at Lush for the development of DRUFO?
Yes, for this specific groundbreaking chemical, we want this to be specifically cost efficient and environmentally friendly.
And do you believe that DRUFO is safe for humans to use?
Yes, my team and I have found that there is no statistically significant increase that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, that DRUFO can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in humans.
And what about the plaintiff's claims saying that DRUFO is carcinogenic in rats?
Well, there are a couple systems in rats and humans that are a little bit similar, our immune systems are inherently different. So because of this, these studies are not really guaranteeing anything for us humans.
So is there any overlap between the immune systems in rats and humans?
Objection, relevance?
I think I can see where she might be going with this one. I'm going to overrule that objection. You can answer.
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
Yes, I'll repeat the question again. I asked, is there any overlap between the immune systems in rats and humans?
There are a couple similarities, but not everything is the same. We can't really be sure that the causes and effects from our chemicals that happen in rats directly cross over into humans.
So since you say that there are some overlaps, how can we be sure that something that is carcinogenic in rats is not also carcinogenic in humans?
Well, it's a little bit hard to determine, especially since chemicals in humans is highly unethical to do studies on them. But when we are testing these carcinogens, we start by putting them in, when we start putting these carcinogens in animals, we start with high dosages so we can see the causes of them and what actually happens. And we can't really do that with humans because we like to stay alive a lot. And for these safety
Objection, narrative?
I'm going to allow it just because it is a complicated topic and this is an expert witness, but I am going to ask that the doctor wrap it up to some degree.
Yes, Judge. For this reason, we can't really tell why, we can't really establish that the immune systems in rats are inherently the same as humans.
Okay, and so you said that earlier that there is not a statistically significant increase, but does this mean that there is at least some risk when using Drufo?
There's always going to be some sort of risk for people, whether you're using Drufo or not. So if you take like a small group of people and see which fertilizers they're using, if they're using Drufo or if they're not, eventually some of these people are going to get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But again, I would like to reiterate that Drufo does not cause a statistically significant increase of getting cancer more than any other fertilizer.
Thank you. And now let's focus on the environmental impact of Drufo. What did you find?
Well, to understand Drufo, you have to understand other fertilizers. So other fertilizers, you have to use a lot of them constantly, which creates a lot of runoff into our water systems, and it's really harmful to our environment. Drufo, it actually binds to the plants and binds to our grass, so that it creates less runoff, it's more environmentally friendly, and we don't have to use it as often.
And is Drufo banned anywhere?
It is, it's banned in the EU.
And why is that?
Well, although it is banned in the EU, this ban is based on no concerns over cancer risks. In fact, under the European Union's nitrate directive, no new fertilizer formulations can be used that contribute more than the incidental nitrate accumulations in lab tests. So the EU, they do lab tests, and if you put the correct chemicals and nitrates in there, then you do get the same amount of nitrates in Drufo than you would other fertilizers. But the EU didn't really account for how Drufo really works in the real world. And at the time, we couldn't really fight this because we were a new company and we didn't have a lot of funds and we didn't really have anyone else to back us up.
And so in your studies, what other fertilizers did you compare Drufo to?
I compared them with other fertilizers that didn't have Drufo.
And turning to Dr. Rogers' study, do you know what his methodologies were that he used?
From the little knowledge that I have, since his study was not peer-reviewed, my understanding is that he compared the use of Drufo in farmers and gardeners to regular people who aren't really under those same environmental impacts. And I don't really understand how she came to the conclusion that she did, because she didn't really have she didn't really use people like farmers and gardeners that don't use Drufo. So she really couldn't find any other environmental balances or other factors that could cause anything else. She was really focusing on Drufo without looking at other studies or without doing.
Objection, speculation.
I believe as an expert witness, she can comment on other scientific or other kind of research. And so I'm going to overrule that objection.
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you like me to restate this question, or do you remember where we are?
No, it's okay. I can wrap it up real fast. If she would have done a study that had farmers and gardeners that used Drufo and that didn't use Drufo, she would have came to the same conclusion that my team and I have, which is there's no statistically significant increase that Drufo can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other cancer for that matter. So she was basically comparing apples to oranges here.
And is this your only problem with Dr. Casey Rogers' study?
Again, no, because her study has not been peer-reviewed and it hasn't been replicated. Anything in science can happen once, but for it to be done over and over again and to be proven that it works, that's real science.
And in your expert opinion, what is your final stance on the use of Drufo?
Drufo is a revolutionary product that has only proven to aid our environmental efforts. And I wish that we weren't looking at Drufo through a vacuum lens, but I wish we could see Drufo for all of its aspects. And I'm worried that we won't be able to see that in this case.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Plaintiffs, do you have a cross?
Yes, Your Honor. But before I start, would it be okay if I get a time check to see how much time I have left for cross-examinations?
Certainly, that's fine.
You have 11 minutes left.
Perfect, thank you. Good afternoon, Dr. Williams. You are a toxicology researcher, correct?
I am.
You have worked in the lab for 7 years, correct?
Correct.
And you have, excuse me, you work for Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Correct.
And you are financially biased in this case, correct?
I would not say that, no.
But you are paid by Lush Fertilizer to be here, correct?
I am paid to work for Lush Fertilizer, correct.
Dr. Williams, you are aware that Drufo is banned in all EU countries as well as France, correct?
Yes, but again, this ban has no correlation for causes.
Thank you. You plan to submit your own study, correct?
I do.
And if Ms. Weirs is successful here today, it will create a whole host of roadblocks for you at the EU, correct?
Yes, it would.
You were promoted to the lab after half of the development team had left, correct?
Correct.
And the departure of half of the development team threw the timelines off for Drufo, correct?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that for me?
With half of the development team leaving, it threw off the timelines for Drufo, correct?
I would not say that.
You were promoted to work in the lab after the development team had left.
Correct.
To keep Drufo industry leading.
I kept all of the fertilizers environmentally balanced, including Drufo, yes.
Dr. Williams, you are trained to identify when a substance is harmful.
Correct.
You also know how to neutralize that harm.
Correct.
So there is a lot riding on your customers' success.
I guess you could say so.
Dr. Williams, you cannot deny that Dakota Weirs has non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
I'm sorry.
Objection, Your Honor. Was there a question in there?
So I think your objection is an improper question. What is the basis for the improperness of the question?
It was not formed in the as a question. It was just a statement.
So you believe it's argumentative?
Yes.
I am going to sustain that objection. Perhaps if you can break your question down, counsel.
Dr. Williams, Dakota Weirs has non-Hodgkin lymphoma, correct?
She does.
Thank you. I have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Ms. Sachs, any redirect?
Yes, one brief one.
You may go ahead.
Dr. Williams, are all experts paid for their testimonies in court?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Does the defense have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, the defense rests.
Given that both sides have rested, we will move on to closing arguments. Plaintiff's counsel, if you will begin your closing argument.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court, Your Honor, opposing and co-counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Carelessness, concealment, catastrophe. On behalf of Dakota Weirs, my co-counsel and I thank you for the attention that you have given this case. Lush's carelessness of risk, concealment of that risk and potential harm has led to the catastrophe that has become Dakota Weirs' life. A stolen life, stolen health, stolen promise, stolen dreams, stolen talent, stolen connection. Dakota Weirs was offered a scholarship to Juilliard, one of the nation's most prestigious music schools, a scholarship that they had to turn down because of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Dakota Weirs had a beloved connection with their grandfather, a connection that was lost because of what non-Hodgkin lymphoma has stolen from them. Today, you heard from two credible plaintiff witnesses as well as Dakota themselves. Dakota explained to you the extent of their diagnosis and the exposure to which they had with the chemical Drupo. You then heard from Dr. Casey Rogers, who brought to you their very own study, a study that shows that there is a link between cancer or between Drupo and cancer, specifically non-Hodgkin lymphoma. You then heard from Carson Durst, who explains the irresponsibility and deception that went on with the studies performed by Lush Fertilizer. Jury instruction 3 states that if a manufacturer of a product knows or should have known that their product may cause harm, that they must warn of that risk, and failure to do so is simply negligence. Careless. You then heard from 3 biased defense witnesses. Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, who only cares about the well-being of his company and about winning awards. Blake also mentions that they would have put a warning label on their product if there was ever any evidence of risk, but there was risk and still no warning label. Careless. Then Dr. Devin Williams, brought out of his office to pull holes in this case today. Dr. Williams only cares about the benefits of Drupo and completely ignores the risks. Concealment. Then Skylar Weirs, a 20-year-old kid with financial issues, posing as an expert. Ladies and gentlemen, as you heard today, it is not hard to qualify someone as an expert. Skylar Weirs. Dakota Weirs is his twin, a family member, testifying against family here today. That is not what family does. Ask yourselves, with the resources that Lush Fertilizer has access to, why bring Dr. Devin Williams out of the break room and Dakota Weirs' twin to testify here today? Would no one else support their claim? Lush Fertilizer is proud of their product, but at what cost? Unfortunately, there has been a great cost. Mental, physical, emotional pain and suffering, loss of connection and impairment of life, all of these intangible things that make life worth living, gone. At the end of this trial, you will be asked to value the losses of Dakota Weirs. And when you do, please keep in mind Lush's carelessness and concealment that have led to the catastrophe that has become their life. Your job here today is to rectify the wrong that Dakota Weirs has faced. Thank you.
Defense, do you have a closing?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may begin.
Thank you all for your time and attention throughout the trial today. There's no doubt that Dakota Weirs suffered a tragedy. It's horrific to see this young student watch as her life derails. And I understand that she's looking for someone to blame. She wants to try and explain the unexplainable and find peace with her diagnosis. But attacking a company because they have deep pockets is not the solution. We do not need more tragedy than what has already occurred. But now those supporting the plaintiff today are digging for it because they think there's a cash prize buried underneath. The plaintiff in today's trial must prove all of the following things with a preponderance of evidence. And as you will see, they failed to do so. The first is that my client was allegedly negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent our product from causing harm. But Lush has only ever been concerned with the safety of our users. As you heard from Blake Doncourt today, not one, but 2 in-house studies were conducted on the safety of Drufo, and they found that there was no connection between Drufo and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, the plaintiff just tried to tell you that these studies are a point of concern, but is it really unreasonable for a company to double check the safety of its own product, especially when this product is a chemical? Absolutely not. Even so, as you saw from Exhibit 1 today, Lush Fertilizer still placed a warning label on their product, advising all users to wear the appropriate protective material, a warning label that was ultimately ignored by the plaintiff. Now, for those of you who've never taken a statistics course, one of the first crucial lessons you learn is that you cannot determine causation from an observational study. Dr. Casey Rogers, another witness who testified on the plaintiff's behalf today, undoubtedly spends her time undergoing important research. But her observational study on Drufo could only go so far as to determine a mere correlation between Drufo and cancer. Another crucial lesson you learn in a statistics class: correlation cannot and will not ever guarantee causation. Any researcher, even Dr. Casey Rogers herself, understands that she cannot claim from her own study that Drufo is the cause of this cancer. She proved nothing. Perhaps this is the reason that the study wasn't even ever peer-reviewed or replicated. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this mere speculation does not do well to qualify as preponderance of the evidence. Now, additionally, the plaintiff must also prove that they had damages specifically caused by the defendant. Now, today, the plaintiff testified that she spent many years working for a landscaping company, and because of her age, worked primarily with fertilizers. Essentially, she was exposed to a variety of chemicals, and this variety of chemicals had every chance to infect her because she failed time and time again to wear protective material. She did not wear gloves. She did not wear a mask. She did not wear long clothing to protect her skin. Now, as for Carson Durst, one of the witnesses you also heard from today on Ms. Weirs' behalf, well, she seems to be in the habit of breaking contracts, specifically that of non-compete agreements, as you've seen from Exhibit 5. If he cannot be trusted to follow the instructions of a simple contract, How could he be trusted to diagnose the source of Miss Weirs' cancer? As you heard, he is simply a man working for a competing fertilizer company who has now latched on Dakota Weirs' vulnerability and using it as a petty excuse to leech cash from his competitor. If there had been substantial research proving Drufo was linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, there's no doubt that Lush Fertilizer would have taken every means necessary to remove that risk. You heard the testimony of Blake Doncourt. Lush Fertilizer is a company that protects, not harms. And Dakota Weirs, though we regard her diagnosis with sorrow, is being used like a paper map on a treasure hunt for whatever wealth my client may have. The plaintiff has failed to put forward the preponderance of the evidence suggesting that Drufo has a direct link to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And their claims of Lush Fertilizer's negligence are fruitless. Fruitless when the science is false, fruitless when the research is incomplete, and fruitless when Lush gave Miss Weirs the opportunity to be safe, and she did not take it. For these reasons, we ask the jury to return a verdict in favor of the defendant. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys all very much. This case has now been submitted to the jury and is over. If everybody could turn their cameras on, and I just want to give everybody and have everybody else give everybody a big round of applause in the virtual world here for an excellent, excellent job. Well done. And now if the score keepers could make sure that they've hit submit, and I will get a notice that we've gotten all those scores. And if you have submitted it, just turn your cameras on. It looks like they all have. So I'm going to start with first scoring judge, Mr. Stewart. Do you have a couple of words of suggestion or advice to these amazing young attorneys and witnesses?
Yes. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I want to commend all of you. You did a fantastic job. I think you're pretty far into the competition, so you guys have all probably tried the case a couple times already, but you did a fantastic job. I only have a couple points of suggestion. I'm a criminal defense lawyer, so I do trial work all the time. I started out as a public defender, and the public defenders in Colorado, I will put a pitch in for you down the road, are some of the best in the country, best trained, just a fantastic group. And some of the things that we get taught as baby lawyers is that the way you present in a trial for attorneys, it's a performance. You're on a stage. And I'll touch on just, for example, the opening statements. The attorney for the plaintiff, you did a great job. But what I did hear from you is it was, you've got to be conscious of modulation. Like, you don't want to be loud and aggressive towards the jury at all times. You want to maybe pull it back some. Make them strain to hear you a little bit, but your presentation was just excellent. And for in the closing argument, the defense lawyer in the closing argument, I think you did a great job as well. In your examinations, you did a very good job, and I think you did a good job in maybe some more of the modulation, in making the jury want to hear you. For the plaintiffs, I will say you made extremely good use of trilogies in your opening statement, and then you tied those back in your closing statement. Just a fantastic job. So I say great job, all of you, and I was thrilled to be able to watch your performance.
And you would welcome them all as interns in your office, right?
Absolutely.
Great. Judge Howell?
Thank you. I made the same observations Mr. Stewart basically did with some of the modulation and the performance issues. It's a believability factor that plays into it. I thought the opening statements on both sides were good in coverage of topics, and I thought the defense opening statement, there was a tone of calm persuasion associated with it that would kind of draw more of your attention to follow into it. The emotional side of a presentation may have a good effect on a jury in certain situations. The persuasive believability side of it has a large role in setting the tone for the trial. With regard to all the witnesses, I thought all of you did a great job. And I thought all of the attorney roles, you all did a great job as well. One of the things I did notice, I believe with defense with Miss Dunn, I believe it was, with some objections and citing Rule 702 and 5 subcategories. I could tell you really had studied your rules of evidence on that. Good job with that. Also, I liked some of the defense by Miss Sachs with getting to the heart of the science, because that's probably the heart of the matter. You know, did the science say Dupo caused the cancer or didn't it? Getting down to the closings, both Mr. N and Miss Dunn did an excellent job. Once again, Miss Duran went over and reiterated each witness testimony, which was good, I think, to remind jurors of who people were and what they testified to tie all that together. And then Miss Dunn, she spoke to the science applied to the evidence, and she had a theory in her defense. Correlation does not equal causation, and that was something that kind of made me think about it. Correlation, causation, that was the heart of the matter with the issue in this case. So that was kind of a nice little thing to maybe set an example for the jury to think about in their decision. So, and I felt like calm presentations were really keystone. I felt like the intensity and modulation on the plaintiff side was fine, but sometimes got to watch it a little bit. I agree with Mr. Stewart on that, but everything said was excellent. The arguments were good. The presentations were good. And who knows, maybe a jury was selected that kind of is more impassioned by the emotional side, the passionate side of the issue, when they look at the witness on the stand and see his condition, or I think it was her, to see her condition on the stand. And so there was some impassioned argument that goes a ways for some jurors as well. So anyway, it's a tough call for me between the two teams, because I felt like both sides, I commend all of you. You did a really great job, and all of you can be very proud of yourselves. I've literally presided over hundreds and hundreds of trials, criminal trials. Now I'm in civil, and you guys are up and coming young lawyers, the way I see every one of you. Nobody did a bad job or even a fair job. Everybody did a great job, in my opinion. So, yeah, to all of you.
Great job. Thank you, Judge Howell. Ms. Dotter, do you have anything? We've heard from the defense side, so now you got to hold us up for the DA side.
Yes, so thank you. Thank you all so much. I'm so excited that you have this opportunity. I wish I did in high school. I did not. And I feel like just seeing you all, I know I would have been a better lawyer had I had this opportunity. And I'm sure if you all pursue this career, you would do a great job. Your passion's pretty clear. Everybody had, I thought, very natural, ease and comfort in your questions, your arguments. It's clear that you've been doing this for a while. But yeah, so I'm a prosecutor, been one for about 10 years, so lots of trial experience. And I do agree, even with my colleagues and former public defender that tone can be really important, and making sure that you're not coming across as too snarky or too argumentative can actually lend a lot of credibility. So I know in cross-examination that can be hard, and I'm definitely not a person who's typically cross-examining, so I try extra hard to be nice, but making sure that you're putting things in the form of a question. There were a couple comments on that, I think, by the judge, in making sure that just, you're just doing your job, isn't this correct or isn't this right? Rather than stating it comes across as a little bit less argumentative, but it still gets the same effect. A couple of people cross-examining, I know, had, I think it was Miss Bauer. I loved your opening in the passion that you showed in cross-examination. There was a little bit too much aggression, I thought, and a little bit too much argument, where I was kind of like, that's a little, that's kind of mean, as opposed to straight passion. So something to think about. But I also really loved, let's see, the objections. It was clear that you all were very well versed on speculation, hearsay, what those mean. And I thought the responses actually in all of them were really good. And the one thing I'll say about those is I kept hearing, is that the objection? Is there a question in there? Again, a little snarky, objection, improper form of question is kind of more professional way to just state the nature of the objection. But I also know that there's a good amount of drama and theater that goes into it. I think that argument is where that really belongs personally. And that comes across as very persuasive to the jury. I loved the closing arguments and the themes, as well as all the chapter headings that your direct examination attorneys used. Everybody did a great job with that. Let's see, with closing, Miss Dunn, I just thought it was very impressive. Everyone was confident and I thought natural, but you definitely had a nice job, I thought, being very clear with some complex statements and drawing the conclusions that your attorneys were really putting out there in their cross-examinations regarding, this was just a study, this was an observation. It wasn't research, it was observation. And I just thought that was really nice, but everybody did a great job. Witnesses, I loved your drama, and I liked your snarkiness because, that's showing that you've got a position here, and it makes that really clear for the jury. You're not, wobbling on which side you're on. So that was great, and really good job, everybody.
Great. Well, thank you, scoring panelists. And I will just add for going forward, one thing that Ms. Dotter mentioned about chapter headings. You did a great job with those, but to keep in the theme of the reading of a book, as you go forward, remember when you're reading a book, you don't want to hear a long line, read a whole long line of a quote, and then somebody answer in a whole long line. You like short. So look at your questions and keep them short and tight. Look at your answers and keep them very short and tight if you're a witness. It's going to be a lot more persuasive, and people are going to pay attention more, and you're not going to lose them. And especially in a scientific kind of area, you have a hard time kind of keeping people's attention. So short answers, I thought the last direct and cross were very good in doing that. As I tell everybody, the biggest fear people have in life is speaking in public. Not fear of dying, all that kind of stuff, speaking in public. And to have you guys not only speak in public, but also know that there are people judging you speaking in public. There's somebody sitting or in a picture window next to you objecting to how you're speaking, and someone ruling on that objection makes it even worse. So I just want to admire your bravery and your willingness to step into that role and shine like you guys did. Best of luck going forward. And so you guys are all free to go for the day. If I could just have the scoring panels just stay on quickly until I hear from the Adams Broomfield people that everything worked as far as submissions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you so much. And Judge Hell, I'm just waiting on your score sheet, and everybody else is good to go.
Okay, I guess I should have gotten that done for you.
I was like
Get to that.
rushing at the end to do it. Look at
Yeah,
all this. I feel like I'm in a trial, Josh. Like I just got notes on notes on notes. I always wish I could spend more time talking to them because I feel like everybody has such, distinct things to compliment.
It's funny because I saw both you and Martin pull out your legal pads and do like trial notes.
That's how it goes.
Josh, I was busy with my legal pad. How do I get to the scoring? I did not pull one out to have it up as I.
Oh no, you're fine.
I
So
remember everyone.
it's just on that main page. Do you remember where you logged in to attend the orientation?
Yeah, I'm trying to find that. Wondering.
Well, Josh, I've got to get packing for leaving for vacation tomorrow. So thank you so much. It was good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Have a great vacation.
All right, thanks. Take care.
Thanks everybody for doing this.
Thanks, Jessica. I owe you. I'll bring you a beer to the SOMB next time.
I'll need it. Thank you.
Josh, I wonder if I closed that window and just stayed on this courtroom window. Is that possible?
You should just, so if you log into the website, you should be able to click on, there's a tab called Judge and Volunteer Area at the top.
Okay, I think I'm checking out all my windows and I don't know what happened to that one. Let me try to go in again here. Sorry for the delay and messing that up.
No, you're fine. The one that looks like this though.
Oh, I found it. My tab was up. Yeah, I just, there we go. Give me just a minute. I'll be fast.
Oh no, you're fine. I just want to make sure you found it okay.
I actually had everything laid out, all the witnesses and the attorneys on my notes here.
You had a fun group too.
That's what I thought. I enjoyed that. 535371. Put my phone in there. Yeah, you did a good job with this again as usual.
Oh, well, thank you.
And didn't even know you were gone since I've been in civil a year, but congrats to you. How long
Thank
have you
you.
been private now? Yeah.
I left, it's 11 months ago. So just under a year.
11, okay.
Martin Stewart, the other scoring judge, that's actually my boss.
Oh, that's your boss?
Yep.
Okay. Well, if I'd known that, I'd have said some more nice things about you. Okay.
How is the civil practice?
You know, I'm not in court as much, but my inbox every day, it's learning new things in different areas of law every single day.
Yeah.
Garnishments. My main thing now is evictions every day, you know, but then I do garnishments. I do name changes on a regular basis. Get in the trials to the court are mainly debt cases, credit card debt and things like that. But I do have a negligence case or two with automobile